here. Welcome to the
Hey,
most chaotic episode of Office Hours yet. It is going to be a wild one. We are doing advanced Photoshop today, and it is going to be literally like we're all over the place. So it's going to be crazy. If you're just watching for the first time, Nick, what's this show?
you've turned into Office Hours. This is every Friday
Nick
at
has no
2:30.
idea what show this is.
Yeah, dude, I know. Not even gonna start.
Oh boy.
But you know what this is. This is Office Hours, and we're here every Friday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Adobe Live. And we are just here to help you get your creative game in order. All different kinds of tips and tricks when it comes to software and fun creative things. What are we doing today, Andrew?
So today, and if you want to jump straight to what we're doing today, go ahead and hit Control Right. If you're watching the replay, you can skip all of this talking and not listen to us. But today we're doing advanced Photoshop, and it is, okay, here's my list. We're doing displacement maps, we're doing frequency separations, blend if, we're doing tilt shift, we're gonna do some rendering of trees and fire. We're all over the place. So fire up Photoshop and design with us. Nick,
Yeah.
we always talk about a very special place in our hearts that exists down here, right below us. Where should people go if they want to get involved?
Would that be our Discord channel?
That's right. It's our
there?
Discord channel.
Look at that.
Look
and some
at that.
great homework.
Oh yeah, some great homework. So we gave you homework, and we usually give you homework each week to just practice your skills if you want to. You don't have to. We're not your moms. But there's some awesome work in here from our friend Katarina, as you saw in the intro, which you might not have seen, but we were using it as our holding screen. So a really fun office hours pattern from our community. Great job. Fantastic work. And if you want to, you can join the classroom chat that happens over in the corner here. You've got Elizabeth in there hanging out and doing some voice chat. If you have questions or anything, or if you want to come on the show and ask us a question, we're live and we want to answer your question. So go ahead and jump into the voice chat.
Especially Photoshop questions for me. Please.
Yes, Nick needs Photoshop questions. So just as a reference, when we're talking
I'll
about
be adding them to the chat
Yes.
when Andrew's actually doing some of the work.
Exactly. When we're talking about advanced Photoshop, my skills on a 1 to 10 in Photoshop are probably around like an 8, 8.5. Nick, where are you?
I'm about a 3.
Okay, so Nick's a 3. So we're going to be teaching you stuff today, but know that we're learning as well. So if something doesn't go right, or you're like, who are these guys? We're learning too. That's the fun of creativity.
That's a great way to say it. So I'm a 301. You're about an 8,301.
Yes, exactly.
See,
Exactly. Yeah, love that.
It's 301 for both of us, but totally different.
Exactly. So let's start with something fun. Let's go ahead and do our fun cut-in. If you've never watched the show before live, we do a cut-in for all those people that are watching and hit that Control Right to skip all the way to the content. So
I can't believe they did that, though, by the way. That's just, come on.
It's true.
Stay with us.
All right, so here we go. Let's do our intro and then hop into our lesson today. And 3, 2, hi, thanks for skipping forward. Man, that was a journey.
So funny.
Yeah, I can't believe the snakes that were in that pit. Okay, so if you're watching this replay on YouTube, guess what? We have a special contest for you. We're going to give you some stuff. Go ahead, comment below with something that you learned during this episode. And we've got some very fun office hours swag that we're going to send to some of you. So comment below if you're watching the YouTube replay. If you're in the live chat, don't worry. We'll give you some stuff too.
We'll get you covered.
Let's go ahead and hop in here. This is a face. We're coming back to that because I want to start with a very fun thing in Photoshop. So we're not going to be taking you through basics because it's 301. You should know how to set up documents and stuff by now. We're just going to have fun. So my favorite thing to do in Photoshop is some of the rendering. So let's say that I have a mock-up, right? I'm creating maybe a space or working with an architect or kind of just creating a render or something. Check this out. You can go to filter and then render, and you can do all kinds of different renders. So my favorite thing is to do trees. So check this out. This is so much fun. Please open Photoshop and render trees with me.
This makes you feel a little bit like, what was the painter? The guy that had the show, painted the mighty trees.
Oh yeah, Bob Ross.
Yes, totally.
So
like,
we can
this
come
is
in
you
here
with a little palette knife.
It's true.
Painting.
Yeah,
it is so beautiful.
So we go to filter, render trees, and then you literally see that there is a tree here. You can pick all kinds of trees. Look at all these different trees. I'm gonna pick.
I had no idea there were like 40 of them. This is amazing.
Oh yeah, dude. There's so many. So I'm gonna go to stylized tree 2. Little Christmas tree. I like it. We can change the direction of the light. So maybe we want the light hitting more from this side. Probably want more leaves, so we're going to do a higher leaf amount. Let's do bigger leaf size, really fill it out a little bit. The branch's height. So if we
Oh my
if we
God.
increase that,
But dude, you know what's so neat about that? That's like, again, it's a different thing. And I think it just stands out, makes it look less clip artish
yep,
when you
exactly. And
mess with it.
so I definitely want it to be way thicker with the branches, so I'm going to increase that by a lot. And then
Oh
we've got
my
the branch
God.
thickness. We can randomize the shape. So if I click here, it's going to randomize the shapes of those leaves, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then we can even go to advanced if we want to and change the camera tilt. So if you see this,
Oh
it's
my
actually just
gosh.
changing just a little bit of where that camera is looking at it. Let's go ahead and do like there. We can
that
do a
looks
custom
good.
color. So let's say that we want it to be like a fall tree. You can
Love
come in
that
here,
idea.
look at that color picker, and do like
Wow.
a fall tree. Do it a little bit darker here. Let's do down there. Yeah, it's a dying tree. You can do custom colors for branches. You can do all kinds of shading, contrast, leaves rotation lock, which means that they're not going to like get all wonky. And when I hit OK, dun, 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 look at our tree. We've got a tree here. And so if I wanted to, I could do this on a new layer. And I'm just going to go ahead and make a white background real quick. I could do it on a new layer, and then I can move it around. So render, tree. I think that all of our settings are going to be the same. Yep. And I'm going to hit OK. And boom, I will have a rendered tree. It is just a free-flowing PNG. And so I can put it in here. I can scale it up, scale it down, whatever I need to do to mess around with this tree. And if you zoom in here, it's like pretty tree-y.
Pretty ridiculous.
It
I would
is.
guess too, it'd be a great addition if you have a composite already done or even a photo and it needs more for the layout. You could probably match the tree from your photo
Exactly.
based on what you just went through. And
Yep.
then just adding a few in there. I think it would probably look incredibly realistic. That's pretty amazing.
I agree. So let's
Very
hop
cool.
over. Actually, let's do one more thing. Let's do one more render just because it's fun. So
We're in
what I'm going to
rendering
do,
mode.
we're in rendering mode. What I'm going to do is, let's say, hold on, let's do this. I'm going to go to Adobe Stock. It is just stock.adobe.com. And if you want to, you can toss the word free after that. So stock.adobe.com/free. And here, I'm going to take you on a trip to Flavortown. So we're going to go ahead and grab a burger.
Because
And we're going to head on down to Flavortown. So
I love this.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this burger here because it's free.
Wait,
it will.
before you even do anything more, chat, guess what we are going to render on top of this burger?
Oh, yeah. Chat, I need
Think
you to
about it.
guess.
What-
Yeah.
what are we
what's-
rendering?
What are we rendering on the Flavortown burger?
Flavortown is your clue. Because I thought as soon as he did this, I was like, I brought up a very famous celebrity chef.
It's true. All right. So I'm going to pull this into Photoshop. I just did that because I didn't want to open up all my files. All right. So here we are. We're in Photoshop. We've got the burger. And I want to render some flames on this burger. So
yes.
what I can do is I'm going to make a new layer. Control-Shift-N is the hotkey for that. And I'm going to hit OK. And from here, I'm going to grab the pen tool. And the pen tool is going to allow me to make a path. So I'm going to make a path to kind of just follow the top of this burger. So we're just clicking and dragging to make a path around this burger. All right, pretty good. And we just want it kind of on the bun right there. All right, so we have our path and that's looking pretty good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to render on this new layer. So we have our path still selected, and I'm going to go to Filter. I'm going to go to Render, and then I'm going to go to Flame. That's right. We are doing the Guy Fieri Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives Burger Flames. And so we can render flames, and there are a bunch of options. So we can do one flame along that path just to have.
Gosh, that is the coolest thing.
It's really cool, right?
Well, changing it to a different color, that's almost anything.
Yep.
You know, I think that's what's so cool about this filter is it's not just fire. You change the color, bam.
Yep. And so I like this one is multiple flames
yeah.
in one direction. So it's kind of burning to the top. We also can do a candle light that looks like it's kind of just a floating candle. This is actually really great if you need to composite in candles.
Yeah.
And you can do multiple flames, various angles, but we want to do the multiple flames in one direction. I like that this is advanced Photoshop, and like this is kind of not something that you're going to use very often, but we just wanted to have fun with it. So we are, and again, if you're ever watching this and you don't like what we're talking about at the moment, you can hit Control Right, and it will just jump to the next thing. It's great. Wade, our moderator, is a fantastic chapterizer. Yeah.
Yes.
So we can change all this. The width, we really want to set it ablaze, not that much. All right, looks good. Interval, I actually want these spaced out a little bit more. There we go, some subtle flames. We can adjust the color if we wanted to, and we can change the quality as well, but we're gonna hit OK. And check it out, boom. We have flames on their own layer rendered. Oh, it looks like it cut off at the top. That's all right.
Yeah,
so we have flames rendered on top, looking good. And let me go ahead and deselect this selection. Stop it. Stop it. Control D. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and just delete this path. All right. So we have our flames here. We can change these to maybe do like some kind of, yeah, there we go. Screen is going to take out any of that darkness. And now we've got this really cool, flaming, spicy burger.
It's amazing.
It's fun.
I love it.
It's fun. All right. For those of you that jumped past the flame section because it was completely irrelevant to you, let's go ahead and cut to Nick. Nick, what are you going to be showing us today?
So before I make a few little edits that I found that I think are really good shortcuts for people at maybe my level of Photoshop work, one thing I think it's always great to look at, and this is in Illustrator as well, I think these workspaces are really fantastic. If you haven't explored these a lot, this is very kind of like, now that you're at a level where you're getting more comfortable with these apps, it's time to maybe like look at some of these workspaces. And what's neat about this, they have a few already ready to go. So if you're working in 3D, you can pop this right into there as well. If you are doing photography, which is like exactly what most people are going to be doing, it's going to give you all of the kind of like required palette layouts and everything to make you a little bit more efficient and working with your time a little bit better. This is for graphics and web. You can see it has changed at each time. But what I would suggest you do too is explore a little bit in here, move your things around. And then what you could do is you can actually save and make your own. So I have like my Nick Classic here that I can always go back to. And even if I've messed this up and I've pulled a few pop-out windows or whatever, I can always reset to that and get back to it. And that way I have like a familiar ground, particularly for the work that I'm going to be working on. But one of the things I wanted to add to this one was I love this picture, and I was kind of really impressed with some of these neuro filters, because for me, not having enough of the experience to know these real quick go-to things, if I want to kind of add some depth to this, I thought this was a really cool feature, and it's really something very quick you can do. You're basically just going to go right into your filters and into neuro filters. And there's a new thing that was here, I guess, added in the last set here, and it's still in beta, but it's this depth blur. And I'm going to just click on this here. And what it's going to do is it's going to take a few seconds. And what it's going to do is it's going to kind of isolate the background from the front and the foreground and the subjects. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull back a little bit and give me a little depth. And there it is. So all of a sudden, you can see the clarity is still there in all of the subject, but everything got there. And what's really neat about this is I can still go back and I can strengthen it even more if it felt like it wasn't enough. And the neat thing too is I can add a little haze to it as well. And you can even get in there and work on temperature, tint. You can really mess around with this. I'm going to bring the brightness maybe down just a bit because it felt like I still want some of those greens in there. And there you go. With an OK, I've now really punched out that front, and I've done it in just like one quick setting. So I really love that this is giving me the power of something that maybe I wouldn't know what to do to build a bunch of layers and to isolate, but to do it this quickly to me is quite a fun little trick to do something really, really quick.
Yep. And again, if you're taking like a photo just on your phone that has a very flat depth of field, this is a great way to give that like DSLR, like long kind of blur and make it feel super focused and super professional. Just like point. Here. So, right, everything pretty much is in focus on Nick's camera. But then on my camera, it has variable focus. We can focus in and out to blur the background. Again, it's just doing that. It's making it so that you have like this faux version of that kind of blur, which is a great transition to what I'm going to talk about.
Good.
Welcome to.
I'm glad you also mentioned that, because I think you're all looking for ways to make your photos look better on social media and everything. And if you're just popping them with your camera or your phone, great idea.
Yep. So, and someone in our live chat is saying, Charles is saying, I love when I get to see Nick working in Photoshop. I'm almost sure he likes it more than Illustrator. Only kidding.
Oh, Charles.
Yes.
Charles,
and in our live chat, we have our friend Flynn Tracy. Hi, Flynn. Flynn takes care of all of the content for Australia Adobe Live. If you've never tuned in, there's great content happening for us in Pacific time at night, but for them, during the day. So if you ever want to catch a stream with Australia, hit up Flynn. He's a great guy. All right, let's go ahead and hop in, and I'm going to teach you how to do tilt shift effects. Tilt shift is a kind of effect that makes it look like something is a miniature. This is just a really fun effect to play around with. And the key is you want to have a high angle, right? So you want to have a high angle on something, whether it's a parking lot, cars, whatever. If you're in a building high or you're in a plane or whatever, you can create this effect that makes it look like a miniature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple copies of this just so we can see a before and after. And what I'm going to do is I am going to blur. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And I'm going to blur this out quite a bit. Right? So we're going to do it so that the background kind of gets fully blurred out. And from there, I'm going to hit OK. And now all I need to do is I need to make a mask. So I'm going to click right here. And I'm going to make a mask right here, right? So I'm going to paint in just black. And what that's going to do is I'm going to use a super soft brush, and I'm going to click on one side right here and then hold shift and click on the other side. And that's going to pull all the way across a focus, right? So it's making it so that the blur is now getting masked out, and you can see that that focus is really focused here, but then not so focused on the back. So if I don't like how that looks, I can come in here and I can delete it. And then maybe I want to use a gradient. So I can use a gradient here, just select the gradient tool, select black and white right there. And I want it to have this reflected gradient, right? Coming through the middle. And I can come here and just click and drag. And you can see that it's going to now put pieces of that in focus. So I want it to maybe drag across that way.
That's looking creepy.
There we go, right?
It really looks like it's got the miniature effect on it.
Yep. And so it starts to look like this city has this miniature effect, right? It feels like it's a little miniature. And this is just a great little fun effect to do so that everything looks tiny. This is actually really fun to do with video. And it looks tiny. And maybe we don't want this in focus as much either. We can just paint in and paint it back so that we have maybe a little bit of focus right there on that building. So it feels like the camera kind of grabbed that building. So the before and after is like, this feels like the tiny little miniature. Oops, let me go ahead and size that right. There we go. Nope. All right. There, that's what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. All right. So this looks like the miniature. That looks like a full city. So it just gives you a really cool effect to kind of pull focus and play around with stuff. All right.
I love that.
Nick. Back to you. And again, we said this is a super chaotic episode. We have like a million things to cover. So we're just going to keep going till we get cut off. If you want to skip through and you're watching the replay, control right. Again, just skip through the chapters, find something that's relevant to you, and hopefully you learn something. And hopefully you join our Discord. You join our Discord and post something that you have learned. All right. Nick.
Yeah.
What are you going to teach us?
So probably one of the most intimidating things for me back when I was first figuring out Photoshop was the whole idea of removing backgrounds. And I would do it in probably 5 different not good ways, right? Okay. I think everyone has approached this in the right way. Sometimes maybe more times than the other way. You're doing it a little bit wrong. So what I wanted to do was find a really good way for anyone that is not too experiencing that to figure out how you do this. So right now with this one completely open and I'm in my kind of like auto, object kind of select kind of tool here. You've got 3 different ways you can get in there. As you hover, you're going to get these different ways that it's going to figure out what maybe the subject is for that thing.
And with that tool, real quick, with that tool, you also can just like click and drag around it and it will find within your selection.
You can do like this, which is really kind of neat as well. You can see here. Now I'm grabbing most of it. I think it's looking pretty good. But for now, what I'm going to do, Command D, just unselect. I'm going to try this one with object select. And if I lasso in everything there, what I'm going to get is probably a pretty good, decent thing here. But I can look at some of the fingers. It doesn't look like it's gone all the way in there, right? So up here on top, I do have this subject, select subject. So I can click here. And what it's going to say is it's like the current selection might change. Are you okay with that? It's basically just going one more deep dive in there. You can see it's kind of gotten a little tighter in there with all these things. So what I want to do next is we're going to go to this select and mask here. So what this does is it immediately brings you to this, and you've got a little bit more control over those edges as well. And here as well, you can change your custom kind of masking color to that as well. But I can go in here and with edge detection, I can go in there and like kind of pump up the radius just a little bit, right? I can smoothen these out. So what I'm doing is I'm just making for that perfect kind of thing there as well. And I can move around here, feather, I can mess around here and see what's working and different things like that. The other thing I wanted to show off was where was it? Oh, right up here, the refine hair. So you can see in the kid's hair here, there's a little bit of some kind of like discrepancy in there, right? You can see it's still catching some of the background. Hit the refined hair, and what that's gonna do, look at that right there in one click. It has found all of those different areas, and it has made a perfect mask around there, which for me, again, like a great power tool to have and know how to do it. So once you've done that, everything, you're ready to go. You're going to go over here to output, and you're going to do it to a new layer with layer mask. That's
always a new layer. Always a new layer, everybody. Don't ever edit things on the layer.
Notice what it did. There's our original background, and now there's that, and you can see we get this perfect thing. If we have to go in there and make some little changes there as well. But to me, it's that quickest way to get it, and I get this perfect kind of masked out, removing the background thing here. Now we could take it, place it in other environments, work with lighting if we need to. But to me, that was kind of like my new go-to way to do it. And just assure myself that I'm getting some good, clean images without a lot of those funky, jaggedy things because of the old ways I used to do it.
Yep, so absolutely.
That's that tip.
And again, it is the customary time, half hour into the show, when we get an influx of live viewers. Hi, everyone.
Hey,
welcome.
Guys.
If you're watching on YouTube, you're in the wrong chat. We love you, but come over and join us on Behance, behance.net/Adobe Live. Leave us a red heart in the chat to let me know that you are coming from YouTube. And if you're coming from YouTube and you leave me that red heart, who knows? Maybe we'll give you a prize. We'll see what happens. We've got tons of prizes here on Adobe Office Hours. So if you're on YouTube, come to Behance, behance.net/Adobe Live. Leave a red heart in chat, and we might throw you some swag. All right, let's go ahead. And also, if you guys notice that I cut away from our faces for a second, this is how Office Hours is. If you saw that I cut away and just went to Nick's screen, it's because I had broccoli for lunch and I just felt it all up in my teeth and I was really getting in there. So you don't get to see that, but I'll tell you about it because we're real over here on Office Hours. All right, let's go ahead and hop into our next thing. This is a highly anticipated trick and tip: frequency separations.
Uh-oh. What is frequency separation?
This is not even 301. This is like a 601. So frequency separations.
Oh, wow. So a 12001 for me.
Yes. Basically what you're going to be doing in frequency separations is you are going to be separating the saturation from the clarity, right? If you've watched any of our episodes in the past where we've worked with Lightroom, you've seen that the clarity makes it more textured and gives it that like really bumpiness, and the saturation changes the color. So what we're going to be doing is, instead of having a photo that is both of those things together, we are going to separate them from each other and then be able to mess around with either of those to really create a beautiful portrait. All right. And yay, Paul, come over from YouTube. Yay. Hi, Paul.
Felt alone.
Nice to see you.
No longer alone there, Paul.
Thanks for joining us, Paul. Paul, go ahead and send me a DM either on social. Someone will drop the link in the chat. Send me a DM on social or here on Behance or in our Discord, and I'll make sure that you get a prize. If you're
that man a prize.
If you're in the US, we'll figure something out for you. If you're not in the US, then we'll figure something out. All right. So let's go ahead and hop into frequency separation. So what we're doing, we are separating the texture from the saturation. And the first thing that I need to do is I need to make a place for those to go. So our background here, we always want to have a background. I'm just going to hit Control J and then Control J to make two new layers. And Paul says he's in Liverpool. Sorry, Paul, I can't ship you anything. Send me a DM anyway. If you are creative, we'll give you some portfolio review. We'll do a little one-on-one, whatever you need. We'll figure out something to appreciate you for tuning in.
Paul from Liverpool?
Paul from Liverpool. Paul, do you have any secrets you'd like to tell us? Any
Paul,
bands
Ringo?
that you have started?
Anybody else?
Yeah, where's Ringo in chat? All right, so here we go. We are going to separate. As you can see, if I zoom in here, there's a lot of skin texture happening. There aren't really blemishes. There are a couple little blemishes here and there, but there's a lot of texture, and I want to get that kind of airbrushed look. Hello. Oh, you can see the photographer.
Oh, look at the whole studio.
Oh, that's my favorite thing ever. Wow. Great. All right. So we have a lot of skin texture here, and as a kind of disclaimer, if you are doing this, this is not how the world is. If you're making your models perfect skinned and airbrushed, that's not how the world is, and it's not real. But sometimes as retouchers, that's what the client wants us to do. So I hate showing you this. I hate doing it. I think we should represent more raw beauty in photos, but I'm going to show you how to do it because somebody's going to ask you how. All right. So what we're going to do is we have our 2 layers here. We have 3 layers. The background, we're not going to touch. This top one, we're going to go ahead and just name, this is going to be our texture layer. So that's the skin texture. This one behind it, this is going to be our saturation layer. Boom. All right, so we got texture, we got saturation. Now we're going to do some effects to kind of pull them apart. And I do have notes on this because it is like a pretty intense process. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my notes. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our texture layer. We're going to turn off saturation for now. We don't need it. I'm going to grab the texture layer and I'm going to go to filter and I'm going to go to blur. And then I'm going to go to noise. Whew. And then click on dust and scratches. What this does is it's basically going to remove dust and scratches that are happening on a photo. So if you had a scratch on the lens, it would remove that. So I'm going to pick an area right here that has a lot of skin texture and then kind of just click to pull this radius up. Yeah. And that's going to allow this to blur out just a little bit. We can change the threshold and that's going to make it really sharp. I want that pretty much all the way down. Good. But I'm going to blur this until that skin texture kind of starts to fade away. I still want to be able to make sure that like it looks like a model, but I want it very smooth. 20? 20. That's too much. Let's go to 15. All right, so we're doing 15 here and I'm going to hit OK. So from there, we are going to go to our... I did this backwards, y'all. All right, whatever I just did... Yeah, you're doing that to the color layer. You're doing that. So we're separating. Go. Sorry. Start over. 3 layers: texture, saturation, background. The saturation, the texture doesn't matter. So we're going to select our saturation layer, go to filter, go to noise, dust and scratches, select an area that has a little bit of skin texture, and then hit OK. So what's happening here is we have all the texture here, but then we have the color here. Right. So now that we've separated the color, we're going to separate the texture and then overlay it. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to our texture layer right here. We're going to go to image. We are going to go to place image. Apply image right there. And what it's going to do is it's going to basically apply the image that we have created on top of each other. Right. So we're going to apply the saturation layer. And you can see it's grabbing all of that texture, right? Even though it is kind of blurred out, it's helping to take the image of the texture layer, blur it out with the saturation layer, and then I'm going to change this blending to subtract, which means it's taking away all of the color and just leaving the textures, if that makes any sense. So it's subtracting the saturation layer, no saturation, but then leaving the texture because we're placing that texture image on top. The scale, 1 or 2, usually it's pretty small that you want. Offset is going to be 128. If this is lower, you'll see it's just going to make it darker. So 128 kind of puts it at a medium level of kind of being able to work with it. So we're going to hit OK. And there we go. It is, boom, done in there. So now I want to change the texture layer to linear light. So we're going to scroll down here and go to linear light and check that out. It has applied right back in because it was that gray, right? Because we put that threshold at the 128 number, it made it so that as I change the blending mode to linear light, it is just flushing out, right? It is just giving us that texture. So it's cool is if we zoom in here, I'm going to turn both of these off. That is our source image, right? It didn't look like anything changed because that's our source image. But if I go ahead and turn off the texture, now we have just the color in the background, or I can turn the texture back on. So we have separated the frequencies of texture and saturation. And now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and go into this texture zone, and we can come in and kind of blur out these areas that have a lot of skin texture. So I could use
coming from that level, right? It's coming from that layer.
Exactly. Yes.
You're just muting it back.
Yep. Exactly. So what I can do is if there are blemishes, I can actually take the color out. We'll do that in a second, but I can grab the lasso tool and set it to a pretty big feather. Let's see how that feather looks. That's not enough. So I'm going to set it to maybe like a 50 or 60 on the feather. And then just
Okay.
grab some of these areas that have a lot of skin texture coming through, right? And it's usually the highlights and the harsh shadows that get those skin textures. So from there, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to blur that out. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, and then Gaussian blur that selection. And you can see as we blur it out a little bit, you're starting to get that kind of very smooth airbrushed look, right?
Nice.
And what I can do...
Still looking natural, though, which is great.
Still looking pretty natural, so we can hit OK. And in here, in the saturation, you can see that it's still pulling a lot of kind of these little blemish pieces. Is I can use the clone stamp right here. Or actually, let's use the healing brush. Let's go up here to the healing brush, and let's set the point on skin next to it, and then just grab some of these pieces so you can see some of these kind of discolorations are going to come right in. So we could use the clone stamp as well, because we're not playing with texture. We're literally only, we're grabbing weird highlights. We're not playing with the texture. We're literally just changing the color. So it's just messing around with the color of that face. So if you zoom out here, it's kind of starting to airbrush that out a little bit. So you can see the difference right there. It is kind of pulling those colors and evening out the skin tones a lot.
I think it's a nice happy medium, because you don't want to go full extreme to where it's fake, but you still want to stay authentic to the individual.
Yes, exactly. And this is a very, very sharp kind of crisp image. But if you continue to go through here and really kind of blur out a lot of that skin, you're going to get... Those are my sound effects.
Perfect.
You're going to get that more kind of airbrushed look on the skin, so that it feels a little more of that like airbrushiness. Now, with the saturation, so this is our color layer right here. What we can do as well is we can actually kind of just paint in some of these areas. So if we have areas that have slight discolorations, we can grab the blur tool right here and then just keep blurring these together so that we get a little bit more of that gradation. So I'm just going to pull the strength up here really high. And as you see, I can blur these out. It's going to start to kind of blend these together. And you can see right there, we've got some kind of weirdness happening, some discoloration. We can grab that clone stamp, and just clone in that color, very soft.
Very nice.
And grab pieces near what's happening. So right there we go. And then up here, I probably want to just smooth this out a little bit. This is going to give me some weird... Oops. All right, this is going to give me a little bit of a weird highlight, I'm guessing, because I didn't do that great. But you can see it started to smooth that out. And on the texture layer, we can come in here and again... Oh, ow. We cannot do that. And someone is asking, would you suggest editing a blank layer at the top with the healing brush tool sampling all layers when working with blemishes? Yeah, you can. If you're just kind of mapping out the blemishes, you can do that very easily. So something else that I like to do here is on top of everything, we can add in some highlights. So I'm going to go Control-Shift-N and then change the blend mode to overlay and fill with a neutral gray. So when we hit OK right here, it is going to fill with a gray, right? So there's overlay, gray, nothing is happening, right? Nothing is happening there. So we're going to go to our we're going to go to burn and dodge, which is just O right here. And we are going to go to dodge, and that's going to allow us to increase some of these highlights, right? To add a little bit of dimension. It's exposure is way too high on this. So you can take it down to maybe like a 30 and just hit some of these highlights that are happening in here. And then we want to get kind of these rich tones that are happening in the background. So we can go to the burn tool, and that's going to allow us to bring down the contrast here for a lot more contrast. So adding that back in will help to kind of even out that, that look. And then if I wanted to maybe add in a little bit more of that darker skin tone, what I can do is I can come in here and maybe I want to add some color into these eyes. I want to keep that bright reflection, but I'm going to create a new layer, Control-Shift-N for a new layer. We're going to change, actually we're going to let's change this blending mode to color. And let's say that we want her to have green eyes. I'm literally just going to paint in a green right here. I'm using a brush. Very, very sloppy here, but it's going to work. So I'm going to paint in a green. That's way too hot, but it's all right. We'll fix it. So we're just painting in a green here. And from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and go to blend options. You also can just double click on the layer. And I'm going to go ahead and change the blend if. So what that's going to do is I'm going to blend. You can see that it's starting to blend in. We want it to blend if it's gray right there is what's happening, is it's blending out the gray on the underlying layer. Now I want to do the opposite. If it's white, I want it to blend away. And you can see that it's blending out the edge of that eye. See how it's overlapping when I don't have it on? But when I start to pull it in, it's starting to blend out a little bit. And I can hold Alt or Option and just click and drag this so that we have a lot more of that subtlety kind of coming into that eye. So you can see it's starting to blend in really nicely, but keeping the values of those kind of tables and all of the kind of reflection. So it still is a little bit hot. So I would change this maybe to like a multiply, or I would change it. Let's do a hard light and then just take the opacity down a little bit. So it's blending in really subtly. And the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my dodge and burn layer, and I'm going to grab the dodge tool. And I always love doing this little trick is I love putting a highlight kind of over the edge of the eye. Let's put a little highlight there so we have a little pop, and then a little one on the opposite side as well. So it just gives us a little bit of extra doing those 45-degree angles on either side, just a little bit of extra pop. So I'm going to, put this high. There we go, a little pop on that side, and then a little pop up on that side. So it gives us just a little bit extra in the eyes there. And I'll go ahead and turn these layers off so you can see there's no eyes and there's the green eyes. So it's a really great way to get subtle eyes that look really great. So before and after. So we've airbrushed that skin out a bit. We've given a little bit of pop and color in those eyes and given a really nice effect. And cool. Rob is asking, would you sharpen the eyes and eyelashes to pop that detail? I could very well. Yep, we could definitely. And something else that I like to do to put over the whole image to just bring it together is we may come in here and we may select subject. So I'll go to filter. Sorry, I'll go to select subject. It's going to select our subject right here. And then I'm going to go to gradient map, and I'm going to put a yellow. I want those warm skin tones. So I'm going to put a yellow. Let's do a purple in the shadows. So I want a very light purple in the shadows. And then in the highlights, I want a very light kind of yellow cream. So I probably want more of that yellow coming in right there. And we're going to hit OK. And because it's masked onto the subject, I can change it to a multiply. And you can see that we get these really cool tones. And then we can play around with, maybe we want it at 50%. That gives me some really nice tones coming in there. And again,
super sharp.
Before and after. All right, it just helps to kind of bring everything into a cohesive look without having it look super like edited.
Looks beautiful. Total story now behind that image.
That was a process. That was we did it, y'all.
How much of your fan is going off right now?
Oh my goodness. Woo. All right, we did it. We did it. We did it. Nick, you've got more to show us. Let's go ahead and hop in. And y'all, I have one more thing that I want to show you after this, so make sure you stick around. And again, if you are watching this on a replay on YouTube, make sure you're commenting below to maybe win a prize. We'll pick one of you, send you a nice little prize from here at Office Hours. All right.
We got some fun stuff to share with you guys.
We do.
All right. I found two other quick things that I was looking for, those things that make for like quick edits, things that I never did correctly. One thing I can never do is lay anything in a random pattern. And what I found here is there's a define pattern feature in Photoshop that I thought was really cool. So I'm using this little ticket, and basically what I'm doing is I'm basically just going up to edit, and I'm going to go to define pattern. And what this is going to do is it's going to take that little art. It's called a new pattern. So I'm just going to give it pattern 5 and hit OK here. Now, the coolest thing about this one is I can actually go and I'm going to make this canvas size just a bit bigger. So right now, let's go. It's about 13. So I'm going to go like 35 by 25 and see. Actually, let's, Let's actually make it even a little bit bigger so I can show you what this thing could do here. So we'll go 45 by 35. There we go. All right, cool. So we got a little extra one in here as well. So I'm going to go to fill. And what I'm going to do is I'm filling this whole section, but I'm going to use our new pattern. So I've tested this out a few times. So here's our newest one, okay? And it's under pattern rather than going to one of your foreground colors or your grays or anything like that. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to go to this random fill. What this is going to do is it's going to help me scatter and random these out in a way that looks really, really cool.
Yep.
So by hitting OK,
just one more time, Nick. What is it going to
Yeah.
do? What?
It's going to randomize this in a way that I can never do.
There is the word. There's the. It was just a real random in these eyes, and it just made me happy. All right.
Yeah.
Let's keep going here.
So perfect. So look at this. I'm getting the preview, which is really cool. You can mess around with the density of here, the minimum scale, how small you want these to go. But one thing I love here is this color randomness. So look, I'm working off one source image, but what it's doing is it's randomly applying different colors to these things. So it looks like a variety of them at the same time. And then you can mess with the brightness, and you can see it's giving me a little bit more, some are dark, some are more light in the forefront. So by hitting OK, you see I get this perfect randomized version of all of these things. So I love this idea.
I had no idea this existed. That is so fantastic.
Isn't that the coolest thing? Particularly if you're doing, like, if you've got, mock-up money or stamps or a collage or anything that you want to do. Isn't that the coolest thing, that it can actually not only randomize it, but change the colors and give you this incredible, little composite that you just did in 2 clicks.
Yep. And someone's asking, is that a filter? I think we want to run that one more time. I also was not paying attention at all. So let's go ahead and run it one more time.
So basically I have this image that's here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edit, and you're going to go to define pattern. And I'm giving it a new name. It's there ready to go. It's now in my pattern section. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my canvas size. We're going to make this much bigger because I want to have a nice big canvas sort. So I'm going to go 45 inches by 35. We get this big, nice image here. You go right to fill. I'm filling the entire art workspace here, or the artboard. And you're going to go to pattern. And then you're going to make sure your newest pattern, or whatever one that is, whatever you titled it, is selected. And you want random fill. Okay. So there's a lot of other ones here. I would even recommend you guys check a look at these, because you can do spiral, all these different things. But I want that randomness. So I got random ready to go. I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to give me this little preview. And I have all these adjustments, including the one that we love the best here, this idea that we can colorize. So if I go here, I get just the color of my source file. But as I mess around with this and kind of add a little bit more color randomness to it, I'm doing that as well. Click on that, and I've got this really cool collage in 1 click.
That's so cool.
Pretty sick, right?
That's magic.
And the only other one I wanted to show you guys, this is the number one thing I could never figure out what to do. I go in there with the dodge and burn turn tool every time, right? And you're trying to get in there and change those yellow teeth to something a little bit better. Here's my trick, and I found this as one of the best ones. So basically with this, I'm going to go with the lasso tool, and I'm just going to try my best to kind of get all of that in here. Get that all together. Nicely done, ready to go.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to head down here, and I've got the new, let's see, wait, what did I do here? Oh, it's on index. That's why. Let's get this off here, and we'll go to RGB. Ready to go. Now I can click on here, and I'm going to go to the create a new fill or adjustment layer. And what I want to do is I want to go to hue and saturation. That's going to be your trick here. And before you do anything, you want to go to your master, and you want to go to the yellows, because that's what we want to control on this one, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to bring the saturation.
This is such a great hack.
And you can see I'm getting rid of the yellow. I'm still kind of but all I got to do is pump up the lightness a little bit. And you can see I'm getting this really natural version of the white without going in there and having any of those weird kind of random yellow spots or whatever like that. And now I've gotten this really great piece. I've whitened the whites just as much as I want, and it looks really, really natural. And again, too, you don't want to push it to the point where it's not natural and it's not something real. You're still basing it off of the individual and what the colorization is of their real teeth.
Yep.
So I love that. That's a really good fix.
Yeah, that's a really great hack. And the great thing about doing that and adjusting the yellows is there's nothing else in your mouth that is ever yellow. So like there is never, right? It's all red and pink, and like there's nothing in there that's going to key out as yellow. And so if the teeth are yellow, it's super easy to change them because it's not going to pick up anything else. You don't have to do any masking. So super
Wonderful.
easy. All right, I want to show you how to do displacement maps because I promised you that I would in the last 10 minutes that we have here. So I'm just going to use on this same photo right here. And let's say that I want to add maybe like a cool like star around this eye, right? Maybe we're going for like the kiss look or something. Let's do a flower. So what I can do is I can come over here to my shapes and instead of rectangle, ellipse, triangle, whatever, I can actually just do a custom shape. And if I right click, you can see all the custom shapes that are here. And I really like this rose. So we're going to do a rose. And all I need to do is click and drag out. I'm holding shift here. And then it's going to fill in a rose for me. Magic. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger just so we can get the idea.
This is how we all test out our latest eye tattoo that we're going to be getting.
This is it. I just want to make sure. Just want to make sure here. I am going to make this a little bit of a lighter color just so it kind of blends a little bit better. So maybe let's do a nice kind of soft pink. That looks great. So what we need to do here is we are going to do a displacement map. So I'm going to turn this off real quick and I want it to follow the contour of the eye. So the easiest way to do that is to create a displacement map. And I'm going to hit X and D. Hitting X and D is going to reset my colors over here. And then when I create my displacement map, it will go ahead and make it black and white. So we're going to go to gradient map. It makes it black and white. That looks pretty good to me. I am going to change it just a little bit. I can click on that gradient up there and pull it to just be a little bit brighter. You want to have pretty sharp contrast on this image. So I'm going to hit OK. And from there, I am going to save it. So I'm going to save it as displacement. So we're going to Control Shift S, and then I'm just going to save it as displacement map.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Yep. So I saved it as displacement map. And now I'm basically going to say, hey, Photoshop, this shape that I have selected here, use the values of a black and white image to make the whites shift and the blacks stay put, right? So what's going to happen is it's going to shift these pixels based on those values. Okay. So I'm going to go to filter. I'm going to go to distort and then displace. This is really great. I usually use this for like flags and walls and stuff. So we're going to click on rasterize. And from there, we want the scale to be probably between 50 and 75. These stretch to fit and repeat edge pixels. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to choose my displacement map that I just saved out that was the black and white PSD. Hit open and boom. You can see that it has actually converted, right, to the contours of this eye. It's very, very pixelated here. So I'm going to go ahead and go in just to soften it up and go to filter, go to blur, go to Gaussian blur, and just blur it out by like 1 pixel, right? That's going to give us a little bit of a softer edge just to match what's happening in our photo. So from there, I am going to change this blending mode to maybe color. Maybe let's go.
I think you had something cool up there. Yeah, they all look good.
Ooh. Let's do overlay. That looks really cool. So overlay looks really cool. And from there, we're going to zoom in. And I am going to use a little bit of that blend if, right? It's picking up some areas I don't want. So I can double click and then use that blend if tool right here to kind of just pull it in. You can see it's going to go outside of that eye. And anything that's really bright, right, it's going to start to pull that away. So you see I'm getting a lot of softness now on those edges, and then hit OK. And when I zoom out, it should start to look like, right, it's been applied on there like a little makeup look. So I'm going to go ahead and just...
We didn't want paint on her eye.
Yeah, I'm going to do a mask real quick and just kind of mask out this eye very loosely so we don't have as much of that on there. There we go. All right, looks pretty good there. Let's zoom out. Looks pretty good to me. What I do want to do maybe is pull it down below everything else. And this is why I have the gradient map on top of it multiplied, because it will help to unify everything. So if I pull it down here, kind of underneath this texture layer, it's going to pick up all that skin texture. That's why frequency separation is the best, because it picks up all of that skin texture under here.
It really looks like you put some kind of makeup pigment
Yep.
right on the skin.
So check it out. If I pull it
Yeah.
above, it's not going to look as real. But if I pull it below that texture layer, it's going to apply all that skin texture and it starts to really look like it's been applied. And it even follows like the contour of the nose and the eyelids and that kind of stuff. So really fun to combine all those techniques using the displacement maps that we've talked about today. Nick,
That's so
I see
cool.
your screen is on something. We have 5 minutes.
Oh,
Show
yeah.
us.
All right, cool. So if you didn't see tiling in our last week's 301 Illustrator, you got to take a look at that, because tiling, we had no idea that even existed. It's a great way to work on something, but get a preview of it in another scale. And with so many people making things for web or YouTube videos, or particularly mobile, you're working on something quite big like this. Let's say it's a YouTube cover or thumbnail for a video you're going to do, right? But you're looking at it 4 or 5 times the size that we would actually see it on there. So I can go in here and basically I've got all these cool stuff that I can mess around with here. So I've got, my title, I've got maybe this, I'm going to bring in a little image of this, because they always have the fake person in front of the cruise ship. I'm sure you've all seen this 1,000 times, right? So what you could do to get a little preview is you're going to go into Window and you're going to go to a Navigator. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you this little section here. You can make it a little bit bigger as if you want. But I like this idea of kind of like going, you know what, that's about the typical size maybe it's going to be on most screens when it comes to you browsing on there. So here I can see that maybe I'm not seeing that person enough, or the summer 2022 is a little bit too big, and maybe my cruise blog is not that big. So right as I'm here, let's go here and let's mess around with this. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I want that to be obviously the first thing they see. I'm going to go in here. I love the way that looks. So let's give it, maybe I'm going to go into layer style. I'll give it a nice big drop shadow, so it's a little bit more kind of like kicking out there. We're seeing it a little bit more. But look at, as I'm seeing this, I can see, oh yeah, this is actually helping. That's going to help my image look a lot better. Now let's go to our little figure here. And if this person is not big enough, let's see. Oh, look at that. You can see it in the little preview. Much better. And maybe on this one, with that selected, we'll give it an outer glow, and that way it's going to kind of help pop that a little bit more. Let's see what it looks like here. So we've got this. We'll go to white.
And you need to change the blending mode. There we go. Yep, you're good.
There we are. Look at that. So not enough. So let's go here with spread and then hit the size a little bit. Look at that. What's so cool about it is it's making a huge difference there now. So I know, okay, I've actually been able to kind of pop that a little bit more. Looks great in this corner. It's like, I even think just placement, it kind of helps with that. Is that looking better? Totally love that. And then we'll get to this one and we'll say like, okay, you know what? Maybe this one, I think it would be kind of fun to actually put it maybe over it. Like it looks like a stamp a little bit. Does it work? Doesn't look that good there. Keep looking. I'm almost like moving and everything, but I'm looking at my little navigator to see if that works.
Yep.
So I love this tip because, again, you want this preview. If that's the size it's going to be, you want to make sure it works really, really nicely. So I love this little tip, the way you can work on it with 2 different windows at the same time.
Yep. And by someone, I mean our moderator, Wade, is saying you also can go to Window, Arrange, and then you can do New Window for Displacement Map, and it is going to tile those windows, Nick.
Oh, it's almost the same thing, right?
It is the same thing.
It's here, and then it's New Window?
Yep. So now as I zoom in here and work on one side, you'll see that it actually is going to make those changes. So I can come in here and maybe I want to edit those eyes. It's really going to make those changes so I can see the detail, but also the overarching. So you can look at both at the same time if you want them side by side, which is really cool.
Look at that. Oh, Rob, yes. Rob's ahead of us. He thought we were advertising for the Office Hour Cruise.
Office Hours Cruise.
That is
that's
next.
What's up. Yep. All right. That's pretty much it for tips and tricks that we want to give you. I just realized that my mic has been so hot this whole episode. So if I've been loud, chat, you need to tell me these things. It's a train wreck.
It sounded good here, man.
All right. Nick liked it, so we're approved. All right. A couple things that I want to talk to y'all about is next week we are doing InDesign 301. I am definitely be leading the ship on that because InDesign is my favorite program of the Adobe suite. I'll be showing you how to do a ton of stuff. We'll probably do some data merging. We've done it in the past, but I'll show you how to do paragraph styles. I'll show you how to do columns, all that fun stuff. So we'll do advanced. We'll do interactive stuff. Why not? Let's make an interactive PDF.
Oh, yeah. And if anybody has an intermediate, like, InDesign request that maybe I can handle, let us know in the comments for this one.
Yes, let us know. Maybe that's
I'll do some homework.
Yeah, that's our contest for the YouTube viewers. Let us know in the comments what you want to see on the show, either in InDesign or anywhere, and then I'll comment on those, and one of you will send a prize to you. All right. So after that, we are going into a back to school. We're going to help all the students out there go back to school, as well as some educators with some free resources. But next week, we have something very special coming up. Make sure you join the Discord, because if you haven't seen, the new Lord of the Rings of Power is coming out. This is not an ad. This is literally just something fun we're doing. If you haven't opened Photoshop, it has like art from the show right now done by artists, which is really cool. We're going to be hanging out and doing a watch party in Discord. We've never done this before. So we're going to do a watch party on Discord. And if you want to be a part of it, join the Discord. And next week we'll be doing a watch party across all of our Discords. So look out for that announcement. It's going to be a really fun time. And hopefully we do more in the future. We'll do some fun watch parties, maybe listen to some music, new albums, all that kinds of stuff. Join the Discord. There's no reason not to. Other than that, Nick, what's our inspiration for the weekend?
Ooh, continue to learn.
Continue
Don't stop
to learn.
learning. Don't stop believing.
Don't stop. Get it. We'll see you next week on Adobe Office Hours. Enjoy this awesome art by someone in our community, Katarina.
Bye, guys.